Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast where we have digital discussions from the worlds of social media, sports, and pop culture. Really excited for our episode this afternoon. I'm going to quickly introduce my guest. I am with academic counselor as seen on the hit Netflix show Last Chance U. I'm here with Brittany Wagner. Brittany, welcome to Popternative. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
No problem. So right off the bat, almost like a three-part question. One, how did you start your career as an academic counselor? Three, how did you get involved in sport? Two, how did you get involved in sports? And three, how did the show on Netflix come to be? How did that start?
Okay. I'll do two first. How did I get involved in sports? I went to college and I wasn't an athlete. I played tennis in high school, was a dancer, cheerleader, those things, but not an athlete, not serious about tennis at all. Always had an interest in it. My family was always watching sporting events on TV, so always kind of had an interest in it, but just wasn't an athlete myself. Went to college. I was an undecided major my freshman and sophomore year, had no clue what I wanted to do, really wasn't real fired up about figuring that out, and flipped through the catalog at Mississippi State University to when it came time where my advisor was like, okay, you have to decide, you have to pick a major now. I flipped through the catalog at Mississippi State and I found the major with the least amount of math. And that major was sports communication. Okay. I don't like math. I was terrible at it, and I didn't want to take high-level math, so I was just looking for some major that would kind of free me up from any more math in my life. And sports communication was it.
Great.
I like to talk, and I like sports, so I was like, all right, I'll do this. Ended up being the first female in that major, was the only female. Back then, females weren't really allowed in locker rooms, and you just didn't see a whole lot of female reporters or in sports at all. So I was the only female, and I walked in every class every day with pretty much the football and basketball teams at Mississippi State. So at that point I was surrounded by athletes. How I got into athletic counseling as a sports communication major, they wanted us to do internships and lots of experience. Our professors really talked a lot back then even about your degree is important, your education is important, but what's more important is networking, getting experience and doing it for free if you have to, just doing whatever someone will allow you to do to gain experience. So as a student, I was a student worker in the athletic department at Mississippi State, pretty much doing whatever they would let me do. Started out just stuffing football game programs on Friday before the games on Saturday, and then kind of worked my way up and was an intern in the media relations department at Mississippi State, and then just kind of dallied in different departments in different areas, did some marketing, and was an intern for the baseball program for a while and things like that. And then I decided to go to graduate school. I graduated, and like many college students, you graduate and then what?
Yeah,
and didn't get a job. Yeah, I didn't get a job.
That's what I did.
Yeah. Took an internship with the Charlotte Knights, which was AAA baseball for the White Sox out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Went and did that for a month or two and hated it and was like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And so I went back and at that point was like, well, I'll go to grad school. Yep. I'll draw this out as long as I can. So I went back to Mississippi State to go to grad school, and I needed a graduate assistantship. I did not want to pay for my grad school. My parents weren't going to pay for it. So I went into the athletic department and said, hey, do you have a graduate assistantship where I can get my school paid for? And our athletic director at the time said, we've got one left and you can have it if you want it. And I said, well, where is it? And he said, in the athletic academic office. Didn't know what that was, had never heard of it, had no clue that it existed, but I was like, okay. And so I interviewed, got the assistantship, and started in the athletic academic office at Mississippi State. And within probably 2 weeks of being in that office, I just kind of knew, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I fell in love with it immediately. I connected with the football counselor at the time, who was another very strong female. Learned a lot, pretty much everything all of my philosophies and strategies came from watching her interact with the football team at Mississippi State. And that's really how this whole career began. I worked at Mississippi State as a graduate assistant. I left, went to another school. Mississippi State had a position and they hired me back. I worked with at-risk football and men's basketball there for 4 years until Scuba came along and hired me away from Mississippi State to basically start a program at East Mississippi, building it from the ground up. And then I was there for 8 years. So I've got about 15 years experience in this, and it started with flipping through a catalog and looking for a major with the least amount of math. So there you go.
Wow.
And honestly, I feel like my whole life is like that. The Netflix show, same thing. Like, everybody wants this dramatic story of how I, have become what I've become. And it's really just, there's no dramatic story. But with Netflix, there was an author out of Atlanta that GQ magazine hired. GQ magazine does the feature stories at the end of their magazine that are usually pretty good, substantial articles. And they wanted to do a feature story on football. Okay. And they somehow got wind of the Mississippi Junior College football system pumping out Division I players. And so they hired this guy to come write an article for GQ. He spent about 6 months. I have a whole new respect for authors and writers. And I mean, this guy spent 6 months in Scuba to write a 4-page article for GQ. It was crazy. But he was there and he did a lot of research. And the article came out in October of 2014. It was a huge hit in GQ. An entertainment company out of Los Angeles saw that article and said, hey, this could be more. This story is more than just an article in a magazine.
It could be a show.
Yeah, they had the vision. They reached out to a producer, Greg Whiteley, who had just produced the Mitt Romney documentary, Mitt, okay, that had won a Sundance Film Festival award. They pitched it to him. He's a huge sports guy, loved it, said, I'm in. They came up with their marketing spill, pitched it to 20 different networks. Netflix bought it. And within maybe 3 weeks, we had a film crew on our campus and we were filming a TV show.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. And honestly, they called me. I didn't know any of it was going on. I had no clue. The GQ article, Drew, the author of the article, had spent a lot of time with me, and a photographer had come out and done a photo shoot, and I'm telling all my friends and family, hey, go to Books A Million and buy this magazine. I'm going to be in GQ magazine. And I run to the bookstore to get the magazine, and I'm not in it. I've nothing. There's no mention of me. There's no picture of me. It's like I don't exist.
Well, and that's not the case with the show.
Yeah. Well, Drew called me and he said, we had to cut the words, that GQ had to cut the article in half. And the obvious break was your part, the part about academics. And so they cut me out of it altogether. So when Greg called me about the show, my initial answer was no, I didn't want to do it. I just wasn't interested in being on it. I thought it was going to be a reality TV show. Wasn't interested in being on a reality TV show. The whole thing just kind of scared me. And so I said no. And then after lots of meetings and conversations with Greg and some other executives, I decided to do it. And man, really good decision.
It's a game changer for you.
Oh, it changed my whole life.
And it's such a powerful show. And I think one of the reasons why I think it, there's a little bit of everything in it. There's sports, there's education, there's a little bit of drama. It's funny. There's everything in it. And, I think it came out at a great time too, where Netflix was going beyond just their 5 or 6 shows like House of Cards, Orange is the New Black. It was part of that new pack of new shows. And it was unique at the time. So yeah, no, it's fantastic. Season 2 comes out in a few weeks, I believe.
It's 8 days.
Oh wow!
July 21st, 8 days away. Yeah.
Amazing. And are you allowed to say a little bit about it? It's a new crop of students, right?
Yes, it's a new crop of students. It was filmed this past fall, so 2016 football season. We had 10 Division I transfers on that team.
Wow.
So that should tell you a lot right there. A lot of drama with just 10 guys that had gotten in trouble, somewhere else. It's 8 episodes instead of 6. So 2 more hours of your life that you have to spend watching it.
I don't think anyone's gonna have a problem with that.
A lot of a lot of tissue will be needed. It is to me, I love season 1. I love the character, the guys in season 1, the people that everyone fell in love with, Ollie, DJ. I mean, those were, yes, the guys. And I love the humor and the kind of lightheartedness of a lot of season 1. Season 2 is a little heavier. It's powerful. I mean, there are some powerful moments. It's different. Not as funny. It's just a little heavier. Really, really good. Really, really good. I mean, it's one of those where I finished it. I watched it. My plan was to watch like 2 episodes a night. I was going to draw it out. And I started it and I ended up I stayed up till 4:00 in the morning, watching the whole thing. I couldn't stop it. And at the end, it's one of those where you just sit there like it's over. You know how you go to a movie and like the movie's over and everyone just sits there because you're just like, what? You're in such thought. It was over and I just sat there and stared at my computer screen.
So
that's powerful.
That first week of filming season 1, how, like, take me through that a little bit. How, like, was it right off the bat, the weirdest thing, and it took a while to get used to being on camera, talking to the students, or did you get used to it after a couple of days? Like, talk about that, because right away, your daily life as an academic counselor becomes this, big character on a TV show that everyone like falls in love with and loves, and you're so passionate helping these students. It's unbelievable, because to you it's just your job. You come in and then now it's amazing.
Yeah, it was different. I mean, I think I think I was naive, honestly. Like I didn't have Netflix at the time. I got it while we were filming. But I didn't have Netflix at the time. I just didn't know. In my back of my mind, I kept thinking, I'll probably get cut from this show too. So, who cares? So I was just kind of going with the flow. The weirdest thing for me was to not have any alone time. I mean, I would drive into work and there were, in season 2, they rode into work with me. So I didn't even have the time of driving into work to be by myself. Wow. But in season 1, I would drive into work, and right when I got there, they were waiting on me. My sound tech would mic me up, and I wore that mic all day. So in everything I was saying, I mean, I couldn't take a personal phone call. I couldn't have a moment where I just screamed in frustration. I mean, everything I said was being recorded. And to just sit in that space and have these people that at the beginning of season 1, I didn't know. I didn't know the cameraman and the sound. I didn't know these people. They came from LA and here they are. And to just have them sitting in your office staring at you, and if I got up to walk down the hallway, there were 4 people following me everywhere I went. Mm-hmm. And I could, and then that makes everyone look at you. Me walking in the cafeteria to eat lunch, I have 4 people following me, and everybody that's in the cafeteria is stopping what they are doing to look to see what I'm doing. And, it's awkward. You get used to it a little bit. I got comfortable. I had one of my requests was to have the same crew with me all the time. I didn't want a rotation of cameramen or a rotation because I knew that would make me uncomfortable. Okay. So I had the same cameraman, the same sound tech, the same PA, the same storyline producer with me all the time. And even in season 2, they hired the same people back, which made me feel so much more comfortable. It was so much easier because these people now know you as a person and care about you too. And but yeah, I don't think having cameras follow you around is something that you ever get used to. I think that you just have to go with it. I mean, if you agree to do it, then you got to go with it. You got to be open. You got to be yourself, and just trust the process, trust the producers. In season 1, I was naive, and so I think that was a little bit easier for me to do. Season 2, it was a little bit harder because I knew. Yeah. I knew how many people were going to watch it, and so I was like, oh. need to fix my hair this morning because I knew how many people were going to see it. So it was a little bit harder in season 2 to, to not think about it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. No, I have to give a shout out to one of my coworkers, Tyrone, who is a coach of the South Ottawa Mustangs, and he, loves the show, and he loves what you do, and a lot of the students that, the players that he coached, essentially go on and, had a tough time, but then kind of, used football to kind of, almost like they were at risk, and like what you do at Last Chance U, like preventing, and a lot of them now are going to NCAA schools from his program. And he even said, we were talking, he's like, ask her if she'd ever come to Canada and talk to our team.
I would love to, yeah.
South Ottawa Mustangs. I'll get that's something he would love. And he was saying too, he was like, I can't wait for season 2 of Last Chance U. So many people are going to watch it. So it's going to be tougher for you.
Huge success. And now I know how many people, and I know I was so unprepared for what would happen after it came out the first time. I just had no clue, that I was going to be the quote unquote star of the show and this instant fame and all that. I just had no clue for that. So I wasn't really prepared for any of that. And mentally, I'm probably way more prepared this time for season 2 coming out, and a lot busier. I do speaking engagements all across the country constantly. I haven't been to Canada yet, but I would love to.
That would be amazing. That would be great.
Teams hire me to come speak to their athletes. I've had faculty and staff, principals or superintendents hire me to come speak to faculty and staff. I've spoken at conventions, corporate conferences, all over the place. I love speaking to the athletic teams and groups and being there and getting to know the people that I've inspired. It's a lot of fun.
Right. So, Brittany, let's get a little academic here because, we both went to grad school, and it's something I talked about. My sister just finished her master's. She's going to go do a PhD, and she's actually interested in not necessarily academic counseling, but she is doing a PhD in cultural intermediations, but she's always been interested in crime prevention and music as a crime prevention tool. So using, music programs to kind of get kids off the streets, that type of stuff. She's very interested in that, the policy aspect of things. So maybe not sports, but similar, but with music. And one of the conversations I have with her and my father as well is, on the show, you're, helping these kids, with their academic studies. But one thing you're doing, which I think is really important, and it's something I talk about a lot, even on this show, is you're making sure they go to class. You're making sure they follow a structure, they're following a plan. Because I think, and I wonder if you agree, that's a misconception of education as well. It's not just the books you study, it's preparing you, it's preparing you for the real life, a structure. You have an exam, you have to be there at a certain time, just like a game. You got to be there before, to practice. It's teaching you that structure. You have a lot of deadlines, especially in grad school. We had a lot of deadlines. You have a proposal to send to your thesis advisor for a certain day. That's just the equivalent as sending in, a big project to your manager, So it's preparing you for that. So that's something that I noticed in Last Chance U. Is that something that you also think about too in your day-to-day job? Not only about helping them with their studies, like the actual coursework, but the actual, just the bigger picture of preparing them for the structure of being on time, getting ready, because this is what you're going to have to do in the real world.
Yes. I'm an effort person. I wasn't always the smartest kid. I didn't make straight A's. I've gotten to where I am in life because of effort. Mm-hmm. And I think anybody can put forth effort. Yep. You can have a learning disability. You can come from a very poor family. You can have a rough childhood. Keep naming all of the things that enable you to be unsuccessful. But all of those people and all of those things do not prevent you from putting forth effort. Yeah. And for me, we can get bogged down in the big plan. If I'm sitting with an athlete and I'm bogging them down in, you've got to have 64 hours and a 2.5, and if you make a D in this, you got to make an A in that. I mean, we can get into all of that, but for me, that is so overwhelming for an 18-year-old kid who has everything going against him in life. So I will worry about all that. What I need you to worry about is you have an 8 o'clock, a 9:30, and 11 o'clock, and I need you there. Do you know where the building is? And we would, in these one-on-one meetings and team meetings with the athletes, when I would hand out schedules, that is the only thing I was worried about. I was worried about, look at your schedule. Do you know how to read it? Do you know that this isn't high school anymore? You don't have every class every day. You've got some classes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you've got some classes on Tuesday, Thursday. Are you looking at your schedule and knowing where you're supposed to be?
Yep.
And then I need you there at that time, on time, and I need you on the front or second row with a piece of paper and a pencil. And if you don't have a piece of paper or a pencil, that's okay. I have them in my office. But if you have to come get one and your class starts at 8, that means you need to leave your dorm room 5 minutes earlier because you now have to come to my office to get a piece. It's simple for those of us who had parents that instilled that in us as a child. But for people that have never been held accountable and that have been enabled and have been able to do what they want to do and never been told, it's not simple.
Yep.
It's not. Time management is not simple for people that have never had to do it. And, I got some flack for handing out pencils. I would get emails, people would say, they can't come to college with a pencil. No, they actually can't, because no one took them school supply shopping. And we are 40 miles from the nearest Walmart, and they don't have a car, and they don't have $1. So how do you propose that they get a pencil? And if me having pencils in my office and having them come get one and at least go to class prepared, if we're at least setting them up to be there, be on time, be on the front row, and have a pencil, okay. At least we're teaching them that. And some of these, it's unfortunate, but some of these big time high school athletes that come out of, these schools where maybe they get one really successful athlete every 10 years, they don't go to class. I've had athletes come in and say, my junior and senior year of high school, I sat in the coach's office all day long. They brought me my work. I didn't go to class. I have to go to class here? Yeah, you do. Because, and you have to show up for football practice. And if you can show up for football practice early and get dressed and get all your gear on and get out there and stretch and then you can do the same. You need to have the same mentality for your academic career, because there are not very many 40-year-old football players in the NFL, short of Peyton Manning and maybe, Tom Brady's getting close. You don't see a whole lot of 40-year-old football players out there. And that's what I would tell the guys all the time. At some point in your life, you're not going to play football anymore. And I hope that you make enough money to just be able to sit on a beach somewhere for the rest of your life, but probably that's not going to happen. Yep. So at some point, you are going to have to know how to show up, how to manage your time, how to pay your bills on time, how to function, how to communicate, how to get along with people. Like, these are things that you're going to have to know how to do. And, we would have guys that would get in trouble in the classroom, fall asleep, or say something they shouldn't say. And I would make them go apologize to their teacher. And it was terrifying. You're going to make me go talk to her? Can you just, no, yes, I'm going to make you go talk to her, because you have to learn how to communicate, with people. And as scary as it may be to you to walk up and admit that you did something wrong or ask for help, I need you to learn that here before you go. Because I want you to be successful in life when you leave here. Whether you're playing football or not, I want you to have some tools. And if you showing up on time with a pencil and being likable for an hour and 15 minutes is all you learn here, then I'm okay with that. At least you left here better than when you got here.
Wow. No, that's great. That's great.
It's just really important, and they're not going to be successful at the next level if they don't learn those skills. I mean, nobody at Alabama is going to put up with some kid who can't be anywhere on time. I mean, Nick Saban is not going to put up with that. And so, they can't expect people to just enable them and give them things for the rest of their life. And I think this generation as a whole is they have instant gratification all the time with technology, with social media, with their phones. They send a text, they get an instant answer. They can get up in the middle of the night and get on the internet in their dorm room and complete an assignment at 2 a.m. that's due at 8 a.m. because they have the capabilities to do that.
Yeah.
And so there isn't a lot of time management skills because there's not a lot of things in their life that require them to manage their time because everything is instantly available to them. Mm-hmm. When I grew up, if you didn't go to the library before it closed at 9 o'clock, you didn't get to do your assignment because there was no such thing as Wi-Fi. So, I mean, we had to learn time management when I was a college student because of just the resources that were available to us. I think the scary thing is it's a great thing to have all of these capabilities and technologies available to us 24/7. It's also a very scary thing because I do think that it is causing this generation to not be responsible and not have time management and discipline and structure in their lives because everything is available to them all the time.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Well, I think we're going to wrap up. But thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, Brittany. I'm really excited about season 2. And before we go, I understand too that you recently started your own company.
I did.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. I have a new company called 10,000 Pencils, obviously because of the pencils. And basically, I found myself sitting in scuba, continuing to work with athletes that were recruited to come to scuba. And I was limited in who I could work with based on who we recruited. And when season 1 came out, I was getting all these emails from athletes and coaches and other places asking if I could help other people. And I would find myself having to say no because I was dedicated to the job at scuba. Yeah. And I just sat there and thought, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I have this bigger platform now that I can use. And am I doing a disservice to myself, to the show, to everybody if I just stay in scuba and continue to do what I've always done? Now here's my opportunity to go take that leap of faith and do something different. So I decided to start this company where basically I can work with any athlete anywhere. So any coach can hire me. If the coach has a high school program and maybe they've got 2 or 3 players that are Division I prospects and I just need extra motivation or help, a junior college program can now compete with East Mississippi by hiring me to help them recruit and get players.
Will you go down there or will it be like online or depends? Like, can you do both?
It depends. I can do both. I've got a program right now that I'm working with where I will go once a month. And be on their campus for a couple days. The rest of it is done text, phone calls, Skype, face-to-face, sending to-do lists to the athletes, and just developing that relationship. I mean, honestly, that's what I did at Scuba. Is I had a relationship with the players, so I didn't have to be in their face all the time. I could text Ronald Ollie and tell him what I needed him to do. And I mean, we didn't have to be in each other's presence all the time to get what needed to get done because we had a relationship. And so it's the same thing. If I'm working with an athlete in Canada and I have a relationship with that athlete and he trusts me and he knows that we are working towards a goal and I am trying to help him, we are mutually benefiting each other, he's going to respond. I don't have to be in his face. He's going to respond to my text, my phone call. We can FaceTime, Skype, and get what needs to get done. I'm just really excited about the opportunity to work with athletes everywhere. And really, I hope that this company just grows to the point that we are changing the face of college athletics because we are getting these kids early enough to change their mentality and really help some people that wouldn't have an opportunity otherwise.
Great. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you because you are changing lives and you're an inspiration.
Thank you.
And all the best with all of your projects, and we will have all your information and all your social media links and your new company information in our video descriptions as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you all the best, Brittany.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
No problem. Well, this has been Popternative. You can catch previous episodes of Popternative on our YouTube page, on SoundCloud and iTunes as well. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Thank you. We hope you enjoyed this interview.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.